Hey, all you songbirds, thanks for tuning in. We have a very special guest today, Dr. Michael Caldwell. He is in Nashville, Tennessee. He's the Chief Medical Officer of Dry January at Meharry Medical College. He's got a whole list of who he is and how he does what he does. But I don't want to take up that space. I want Michael to be it, Dr. Caldwell, to be able to do the rest of his intro. So could you please tell our listeners and viewers more about yourself and how you came to be with Dry January and anything else you want to add?
Well, thanks so much, Nick. It's really great to be here. Dry January is growing, and so pleased to be representing Meharry Medical College, our new school of global health right here in Nashville, Tennessee, the one, the only Music City, as well as, whether you know it or not, the bachelorette party capital of the world. So we know how to party, we know how to drink alcohol, and there's a lot of room for adult non-alcoholic beverages. So I joined Meharry Medical College about just over 2 years ago. I'm a doctor in internal medicine and preventive medicine, and I have a long career in public health and do vaccine research, but I got very interested in alcohol, in part because a lot of my career I devoted to reducing harm in tobacco smoke. And I, over years, have appreciated that alcohol is really not given as much attention as it should be for all the harm that it causes, and been very excited about the technological advances in the adult non-alcohol beverage space, led by Lyres and others. And I'm just really happy to be here to talk to you today.
Really, really happy you agreed to come on the show. I feel honored by that. Um, you mentioned Nashville being the bachelorette capital of the world, and I've witnessed the buses. I've seen the limos. I've spent a lot of time in Nashville. It's a city that's very close to my heart, and it has me thinking about because you mentioned like there's plenty of alcohol, but there's plenty of room for non-alcoholic, adult-oriented non-alcoholic products to be included in these spaces. How do you see that kind of evolving in Nashville currently? Do you see more of it happening in venues and in public spaces?
Yeah, there's no doubt, and I could give you a few examples, but you're hearing about it more in the media, on social media. We just had some really innovative, creative, artistic entrepreneurs, which comes from the music city industry, but we're also the healthcare capital of the United States too.
Oh wow!
We have more healthcare companies here than any other place. So with the real magnetism that Music City is drawing from the technological field, from the healthcare space, from the music space, we're becoming one of the most culinary celebrated places in America, Nashville, Tennessee. Would you believe it? And that's because we are growing our tourism industry, and there's a demand for high-end hotels, high-end culinary, and also being more educated and thoughtful about what options there are to choose. So we in particular have a brand new first non-alcoholic bottle shop that opened up in Nashville. It's called Killjoy, kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's run by a good now friend of mine, Stephanie Still, who a lot of people are on different journeys with their relationship with alcohol over the years, but a lot of people who have found the sober lifestyle after having been drinking for a while really celebrate it and want to share it. So how great is it to have our first non-alcoholic beverage store? That's just one example. Other venues you can go to. One I'll point out is Southern Grist, which actually is a member of the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association, but they are what you would consider a craft brewery where you go in, they have really good high-end food. But the first place I've ever been in where there's non-alcoholic beers on tap, like 2 of them in addition to cans. So,
That's cool.
So they've got, 20, 30, 40, brews, and they say, hey, I want to go out and enjoy that experience, and I want my beer to come from the tap, non-alcoholic beer on the tap. Really the taste and feel and sophistication is all just right there. So for people who don't drink or just maybe want to have one less drink or just even experiment, other products, other companies in the non-alcoholic space, which you can think of. One that stands out is Athletic Brewing is really very big in the craft brewer space. There's one restaurant I can think of at Urban Grub in a part of Nashville called 12 South. You open the menu now, and they don't just have one non-alcoholic beer. They have 12 of all the different kind of craft beers that you can have in addition to having, the spirits and the rest. So it's not just non-alcoholic, water, soda, juice. It's really leaning into what is out there. What are the products that people are excited about to test and taste? And so I'm certainly seeing it in Nashville. I'm seeing it sort of ebb and flow in other places. Like, for example, I fly Delta Airlines a lot, and on the Delta Sky Lounge, there were initially they would charge you as a premium drink a non-alcoholic beer. They would charge you,
right?
And then,
I experienced that too. I was like, "Wait, what? No, what?
It's like,
Here's
that can't be
$5. I mean,
right." And then they had like a menu of 3 or 4 different varieties, and now they just more recently have just gone down to one. So I think even businesses are trying to feel out the market here, what to do. I know Delta even had a specific dry January cocktail, and I'm not sure if it included Lyre's products or not, but it was. It's a great juxtaposition for me, who's a public health doctor who cares and understands that alcohol is a risk factor for cancer. So it gets me a little frustrated when we are celebrating October Breast Cancer Awareness Month with pink alcohol cocktails, which essentially is a risk factor for cancer, but nobody brings that. So I really would love to see moving forward that October pink cocktails also kind of connect with Dry January to say, hey, we want you to celebrate, fighting breast cancer by not having more alcohol, or at least having that as an option, just educating people about it. So I'm seeing definitely progress, but it's not a straight line.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, as long as we've got some type of progress, and however small it is, you and I both want to see this thing move faster in a societal norming of this. There's a group of us, a large group of us across the globe that want that to happen. But as long as we've got some progress that's inching forward, I think we're going to get there. Which brings me to section 1 of our talk. When we are looking at the movement, and by movement I should say movements, because there's a plurality here, right? And I want to make sure that our listeners and viewers understand that we are talking about 2 separate things here. The no category is a sacred space. There's no alcohol in that, by legal definition of 0.5% or lower. There's 0.0 when possible, right? So the no movement has no alcohol. The low movement does have alcohol. These are 2 different things, and I want to make sure that when we're talking about them, that we keep them separate, because they are completely separate engagements. One is elimination, where the other one is moderation. And I want to make sure that you listeners and viewers, I'm not giving you medical advice. We're not giving you medical advice. We're just stating facts that you can make better and more informed decisions. So when we're looking at the medical professionals in your network, what are they saying about the moderation movement and the reduction or elimination movements? I guess is the better.
Yeah, I think that the medical community is behind the curve when it comes to what's going on in sort of more of the sober community, social media, the entrepreneur community. I think the academic public health colleagues of mine and medical professional colleagues, right now they are experiencing these technological advances of these adult non-alcoholic beverage products just as people, individuals. And I don't think it has translated yet to me being a doctor talking to my patient about trying these things, unless it's sort of just like a friendly, hey, did you try this or whatever.
Right.
So I think we're in a very early stage of that. That's why I am so happy that Meharry Medical College and our School of Global Health is leaning into this, because I think we can help to educate our own colleagues in public health and in our medical profession. And I'll give you an example. For the last couple of years, we have gone to the American Public Health Association annual meetings, and we've had a booth, and we've been able to ask people, have they ever heard of Dry January? Do they know about it? Have they heard of some of these adult non-alcoholic beverage products? And I'd say the majority have actually not heard of Dry January. And you're talking about at the public health convention, which you would think they would have heard about it.
Right.
And the majority have not realized that there are all these innovations in adult non-alcoholic beverage. Now, there are a handful of people that you know it, but definitely the majority don't. So we found that maybe about 40% of people at that meeting had even heard of Dry January. They knew it was something about it. So, and the people who said, "Oh yeah, I do it every year. I know about it. Or I got the Try Dry app," and those go down to maybe about 10% of people. And then for people that have known about adult non-alcoholic beverages, they're like, "Yeah, isn't there just O'Doul's?" They're still like living 10 years in the past, and unless they're younger demographic, unless they're in that sort of sober curious space, unless they're entrepreneurs or on social media, they really don't know. So we have a long way to go. And as you talk about with our medical colleagues, I think it's just starting. And one of the things I'd just like to bring up is because I teach medical students, and one of the things I do is physical diagnostic skills, where we teach students how to interview. And one of the typical questions we ask people is, do you smoke? Do you drink? How much do you drink? Is it how much? And it's you almost can sense, and I've been on both sides of this as the doctor and the patient, and now the teacher of the medical students, to know that that's a confrontational way of asking questions. So it's like, so do you drink? And people know like the answer should be, oh yeah, just a little bit, and like, and how much do you drink a day? I'm like, a couple, and it's like a couple a week. I'm like, what's the right answer? So I'm toying with the idea of doing an experiment with to be able to say, instead of asking that question, be able to ask the question, have you ever heard of Dry January, as part of the patient-doctor interaction? And that just being like an opening up. It's like, oh, what is that? And it's like, oh, it's about people who put a mirror up to their own relationship with alcohol. And then people are like, oh, I don't need that. I don't drink. And now you've gotten your answer of your usual question. Or oh, I've been thinking more about my drinking lately. It does it in a way that allows it to come from the patient. And even if they don't give you the information truthfully, in a way, they have a tool to take home to follow up about. So I'm really excited about it, and I think we need more tools in our patient-doctor relationship, especially because of the pressures that medical providers have to see so many patients so much time. They don't have time to have these conversations, and we need to expand it to other allied health professionals to be able to talk about this. And the public. We need all of you to be able to talk to your friends and family, and know maybe not just yourself, but we're all impacted by alcohol. Even if you've never had a drink, people in our community drink, and it causes a lot of harm, not only to our bodies but our communities. And we have a lot of progress to make, and we will.
I think one of the first steps there is we have to take a look at the psychology behind it, and the lexicon that we choose to use. Like you said, reframe the word. Words have power. Let's get a better structure there, and take the shame portion out of it. So I think that's why a lot of people get this weird pressure behind them. They're like, I don't want to share that I've had 3 drinks this week or whatever it is, because they feel shameful about it, right? So if we can find a way to have a more open dialogue and a more honest dialogue with each other that takes the shame out of the equation, that information flows better, more freely, and I think that improves public health on the back end of it, because you're actually giving me the data I need to help you improve your life, right? I think that's a very poignant piece of it. I'm very much digging that.
And just the last thought I had too is about just always providing an opportunity to educate people, because the number of people who understand that alcohol is a risk factor for cancer is
Hmm.
so little. I mean, some people think, well, I got to drink a lot and maybe I'll get liver cancer, but it's tied to so many other cancers, and that, I think, is just something for people to learn about and ponder. The relationship between any alcohol and breast cancer is very strong, the scientific relationship, and that very few people understand that. And that's one of my goals, is to be able to focus in on that, because it is such a devastating illness, especially the bachelorette party capital of the world, right? In the United States, you want to start off, as good as you can, at least knowing what your
Yeah.
risks are. Yeah. And I think people might know, oh yeah, I'm losing brain cells or whatever, like things that they do, but I don't know, maybe the cancer risk will resonate for them. So there's so much to do.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I hope that I really, truly, honestly hope that your mission comes to fruition, because the the way that our society allows us to kind of, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, right? You've got that luxury of time, but when time catches up with you, it's a little different. I'm going to share something with you that I've never shared on air. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with NASH, and it's non-alcohol induced steatohepatitis. It's essentially fatty liver disease, right? And my doctor was like, "You got to stop drinking." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "You got to." I was working in whiskey at the time. "You got to stop drinking." And I was like, "That means no Scotch and no Irish." He's like, "Yeah, it does." And I was like, "Okay." He goes, "And you got to lose weight." So I lost 60 pounds. I have a glass of bubbly maybe once a quarter, roughly. I love champagne. Love champagne. And that's really about it. Like, the first couple months, it was weird. And for those of you that are going through this, I want to make you feel supported in what happens, because there is some stuff that happens, right? On a sociological scale, friend groups might evolve a little bit, and that's fine. That's natural. It's scary at first, but it's natural. Going out to bars might be a little weird at first, but it gets normal, I promise. And with what Michael has told you about some bars in Nashville that are now evolving to have non-alcoholic beer on tap, that's becoming a more normative thing. There are hotel groups and hotel grading systems that you won't even make the lowest tier cut unless you have non-alcoholic options that are not soft drinks. I forgot about all the
Yeah,
little
well, I like that. That was
things
pretty cool. I was going to give
that
that a thumbs up too. I thought, did I think
what.
that? Or
There's so many of them. I love it. It's my favorite is this one. There it goes. Aww.
Oh,
So those of
wow.
you that can't see what's
Wow.
going on, I just
You
remembered about
are,
the emoticons and did a thumbs up.
oh
But
my
back to what I was
goodness.
saying, even to be in the lowest grade, you have to have at least 3 non-alcoholic cocktails or offerings that are not soft drink, juice, coffee, or tea.
Mhm.
And that's when the highest of the highest end is looking at that. That's starting to say something. If it works like fashion does, we're in a good place.
Yeah,
Um, so let's talk a little bit more about Mahari. I'm gonna flip the script up a little bit here, because
sure.
you have some stuff you want to share slide wise, and I've got those up.
Oh, great.
Let's talk about Mahari, and let's talk about what Mahari is, and how it's absolutely uh, integral to the Nashville community, not only the Nashville community, but the community at large.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you so much. And
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
we are approaching our 150th anniversary. Meharry Medical College is a historically black medical school. It's the first one that was in the South after the Civil War, and
Mm-hmm.
most people, are not Civil War history buffs, but Nashville was occupied by the Union Army for the majority of the Civil War. And what that meant is that there were a lot of black soldiers here in Nashville. And so when Abraham Lincoln assured our country and our veterans, by creating the Veterans Administration, that America will always take care of their veterans, no one stepped up to take care of the black veterans from the Civil War here
Mm.
in Nashville, Tennessee. So one of the reasons why Meharry Medical College was created was to provide a pathway for African Americans recently freed slaves to not only be educated, but to learn to become doctors, to take care of those who fought for our freedom, to preserve the Union, especially, the people who suffered probably the most, even, in this area too, that were targeted for destruction during the Civil War. So our Black veterans. So we come with that spirit of survivorship, moving forward, growing in the most unbelievable, difficult circumstances. And so we have a mission to serve the underserved. And one of the things that we focus on is serving communities. But when we take this understanding of the alcohol industry, we believe that the spectrum of addiction is such that alcohol is an underserved component of the addiction spectrum. So we're going to focus on this as really just part of our mission. So the two main areas where we work with Dry January USA is our Office for Research and Innovation, and that's where we do a lot of our basic science research, education, and treatment. We have a very strong alcohol and opioid abuse treatment program called the Elam Health Center. And then so pleased to share with you the announcement just recently of our School of Global Health. It's the first School of Global Health in the country. It's focused on a few different domains. I'll highlight two of them. One is social and behavioral health, and the other is health communication. So
Wow.
the whole notion of we, not me, that we are a community, we all are impacted. And you can learn more by going to MeharryGlobal.org. That's MEHARRY global.org, and you can learn more about the great things that we're doing there. And that is where now the home of Dry January is, Dry January USA. It is here. We're really pleased to have this sole licensing agreement with the owners of the global registered trademark for Dry January, which is out of the United Kingdom, which is Alcohol Change UK, the great partners there working with us, and we're happy to participate in this really on a global level.
That's amazing. I have a really good friend, Joe Pariah. We call him Joe P. He's the mayor of Everywhere, based up outside of, I think he's in Providence now. And he has a saying, it's I am because we are. And I think that fits beautifully into what you're saying. It's not about the me, it's about the collective we. You have more of the global health. For those of you that are listening and not watching, please come back to the YouTube channel or wherever you view your podcasts. We are not on Spotify podcasts because of the agreements with that. But if you do want to see what Dr. Caldwell is talking about, please jump into the YouTube channel. I'll have all of these links in the show notes. And also you can watch, pause, and look. So it is meharryglobal.org, MEHARRY global, GLOBAL.org, ORG. That is the Meharry Global site. Okay. Now, as we like to say, we got to take a little bit of a break. The bird's got to spread his wings, got to fly, and we got to get paid. For those of you that are new to the show, this is TaleFeather, powered by Liars Non-Alcoholic. They are our kind sponsors for the entire first season, so we are going to go see them right about now.
The Liars Non-Alcoholic Pink Spritz.
I taste the world through rose-colored glasses.
Delicious. Stay spirited. Make it a Liars.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that little commercial from our friends at Liars Non-Alcoholic. In this part of the episode, I want to make sure that Dr. Caldwell and I get to talk about the medical benefits of reduction and removal of alcohol. There's a fun little chart we're going to go over to in just a second, and Dr. Caldwell will kind of go over it and we'll expand upon it. We're going to start with reduction. So I want to see what happens with reduction and maybe what happens when you restart that engine, and then we'll go over to removal and what people can expect. Is that okay with you?
Well, any alcohol is not good for your body. There's still some continued myths going on that, having one glass of alcohol a day is good, and that really is not true. It's really the socialization of what that experience is that's really the good piece of it. But any alcohol does create an increased risk of cancer. It increases risk of heart disease, and causes a whole number of problems. So when you reduce your alcohol, probably depending on how much you drink, I mean, if you're drinking 1 or 2 or 3 drinks a day, now you cut it back to 1, you'll find that you do have an improved quality of sleep and more energy. May not happen on that day, but if you over a week or 2 weeks, you'll definitely notice it. And certainly if you eliminate it completely, you have a much more enhanced effect. You'll have improved levels of concentration. You won't kind of feel tired or groggy as much, and you'll definitely feel like you have more energy. Even by just reducing alcohol, your skin is going to thank you, because a lot of what is caused by alcohol is not only the toxic effects throughout all your organs, not just the liver, but all your organs. It also dehydrates them all, because it's a natural diuretic alcohol. So we're often way behind on our water intake. And so your skin will certainly change. You may be familiar, having worked in the alcohol industry too, that you can visually tell somebody who's a drinker versus somebody that's not a drinker. It's like and then I think as you move more to being not a drinker, you're like, oh, that person's a drink. I mean, it's just written over people's faces that I think that drinkers don't realize how much they are sharing, because even people who feel or know they drink too much are like, oh, I'm glad nobody knows I drink too much. But we know.
Yes.
we know. It's reminds me of some other social changes that we've had, where people share and open up about their lives. They're like, we know. So good for you, for trying to make a change. Definitely, blood pressure is one of those more silent changes that people don't recognize. Pulse rate. So when you reduce your alcohol, your pulse will moderate, and your blood pressure will lower. Oftentimes, I'll be seeing younger patients, in their early 20s. Their blood pressure is always fine, and then one day it's like shooting through the roof. And my first question of them was like, "How was the party last night?" Right? And usually it's because they had been drinking. So you do get a rebound effect from alcohol. So as you start to reduce, you minimize that rebound effect, because people who drink every day, they're in perpetual rebound. They have the suppression, then they of their breathing, their pulse, their blood pressure, but then your body rebounds, and that's why you kind of wake up in the middle of the night after you fall asleep with the intoxicating effects of alcohol, but then you kind of wake up again. And so but if you're doing that day in and day out, you never allow your body to get back to normal again. And so you're continually having a high pulse, a high blood pressure, and that puts you at risk for causing more long-term heart disease and other problems. So so if you are able to put a mirror up to your own relationship with alcohol, that we ask you to do at Dry January, and anytime. You could do Dry January anytime, and the Dry app is available, and it's really a great tool. It's free.
I have it on my phone.
And you're able to catalog your drinking, and it's all personal. It's you're having this conversation with yourself, no judgment. It's all about having support there in a way that's really tailored for what you want. You'll be able to chart for yourself what the benefits are. But what is challenging is for people who reduce their alcohol, they continue to have a daily relationship with alcohol, and it becomes sort of their friend, and it's constantly like on their mind. So in some ways, it's easier to have no relationship with alcohol. and to have that moderating effect, because that's when, the gas pedal gets pushed by accident, and then you're trying to hit the brake and you're trying to moderate. And some people can do that successfully, but other people over different parts of their lives have different challenges, different friend groups, different relationships, and their drinking might start catching up to a point where they didn't realize it before. So maybe they used to have one drink a day, and then it's two, and it's one bottle a day, and suddenly people will look at themselves like, "What? When did this happen? Why did this happen? I want to address this. I want to substitute in some of these new non-alcoholic products." Let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
I was working with the Tennessee Titans during COVID. I was the public health director during COVID for Nashville. So, during COVID, we shut everything down. I was very much leading the effort to reopen the community, especially outdoor venues. And so I spoke with the president of the Tennessee Titans, and I said, if you don't serve alcohol, I can let more people into Nissan Stadium. And so we went back and forth, but we finally agreed that he would offer more non-alcoholic beverages at all the locations. So I felt like I was making a public health step forward. The president of the Titans said, they committed to that. And I saw evidence of it as we were letting people in the stadium. I learned in high school, the first thing to go when you drink is your judgment, right? So once you have one drink in and you need a second drink, then you're off to the races for those people who, are in situations where they continue to drink. But so the personal story of this president of the Titans, he says he likes to have 2-3 beers on the weekend, maybe more. But when I introduced to him these there were this sophisticated technological advances that happened so rapidly. So he said, "Michael, since you told me about this, I've been trying different ones, and I want you to know that because of you, on the weekend, I will have one alcohol beer, but I will substitute in now any variety of new products that I've found to be non-alcoholic beers, and I feel just as satisfied with the taste and the feel, and I'm drinking less alcohol." So I made one step at a time. This is the beautiful part of what you and I are doing here, is that one conversation, one at a time, and you never know what the influence you're going to have, and to be able to continue to have more people who we're impacting and more of these technological advances to talk about. It's really, really exciting. I couldn't be more delighted.
Well, you know what they say about waves? They all start as a ripple. So if we don't throw that first pebble, if we don't make that first ripple, we're not going to get to the waves. So I'm glad to be on this wave with you. We've talked about the reduction of it. How does life on a physiological scale evolve post removal with the human body? Like, what happens? We've talked about the skin. Are there other factors on a physiological scale over a long-term benefit of removal?
Yeah, no question that your overall weight control will be better. You will have less of a bloating. Your liver and your heart, even though you can't see them, are definitely going to be healing.
Okay.
Your blood pressure will moderate. So what causes strain and stress on the heart is higher blood pressure or faster pulses over time. A really important element is inflammation. We're hearing more and more about how inflammation plays a really important part in our health of our physical bodies, and alcohol is constantly toxic, constantly causing a hyper-inflammatory low-level state, and now you can remove that. Overall, that's going to result in tremendous benefits for your immune system. Remember, that's another silent part of an important component of your body. If you're suppressing your immune system, you're going to be more at risk for getting bacteria, viruses, and other diseases. And because of the constant irritation on your sort of digestive tracts as well. That will dissipate, so that when you really do get illness, you'll be in the best possible shape to handle that in a way that sort of an athlete does. So by drinking or eliminating drinking, you're moving in the direction of caring for yourself, and in a very special way, and hopefully we will adopt other healthy behaviors, because when people do things to help improve their health, they do them in groups sometimes, right? They'll cut back on drinking. Maybe they'll eat more healthy. Maybe they'll get their physical fitness in, and that all works in tandem. And the positive immune benefit you get by doing a little physical exercise, the improvements in your sleep, all work together. So you can think of exercise as almost like an anti-alcohol movement. So it's not just getting rid of the alcohol. It's you can even do more. So and those people, and you and I, I'm sure, have, up and down over the years, have done different things. We know like the exercise is the one magic pill that really does all amazing things.
Yeah, when I was consuming entirely too much on a weekly basis, I was still working out. I was still running. I was still swimming, doing my physical activities, hiking. I'm a big hiker and diver. My pulse rate was always at 72. Resting rate was 72. And I found out that's not a good thing. So through reduction and removal, largely, and being able to be more present with myself and my body, and understand, I started meditating, started doing yoga, do yoga probably 5 times a week, which my spouse does it. That's why we're going to Chiang Mai, so she can get trained. She does it 7 days a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. But the being present with yourself, being present with the capital S self, and allowing yourself to see the things that happen to you through that 3, 4, 5, 6 month period, it's mind blowing. Like my pulse rate, resting rate's 58 typically now. Granted, I'm, when we've got a pool that I can be in, I'm swimming usually 3 to 5 miles a week. I don't really run a whole lot because of a spinal injury, but I will still hike pretty often. So it's allowed the time that because time is finite as far as we know, the time that I had spent feeling in a down curve because I had overconsumed the night before, or the time that I'd spent consuming, I can now refocus that time as currency into other things like hiking or getting back into my art or doing a podcast and talking to people all over the world, right? So that's a fun outcome, and I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do. That's not my MO with this podcast. Again, it is to make informed and better decisions and better informed decisions. To kind of capitalize on that part of the question just a little bit more, is this something that people should be doing on their own?
Good question. I think certainly if people are drinking 6 or more drinks a day for a long period of time, that just stopping drinking, it actually could be harmful. That it's important that you look for under like alcohol use disorders, easily found online, about when you should really try to seek medical attention to help you. Oftentimes, people just present to emergency rooms one reason or another because they just having trouble with their alcohol, or they've had an injury or something like that. But that's something that I think is really an important point to make. I think if you are going to be cutting back, to know that if you do just stop completely and then you're starting to feel a lot worse, that you should seek medical attention, because that is one of the real severe dangers of just going from a lot of drinking to 0 drinking. So my recommendation is that you find somebody to do it with if you can. If not, and you're going to do it alone, just look for all the tools out there to help keep you informed about what your own body is saying to you, and that reducing is really a journey. Now, with dry January, what I'd like to let people know is that dry January is not about just shutting it off like a switch. Some people want to do that. Some people want to do that. But for people who are drinking 4, 5, 6 drinks a day for weeks, that really should be very thoughtful about it. And I'd say do kind of an off ramp for dry January, kind of taper yourself down, and think of dry January as your own journey. Whatever you want to do, as long as you're mindful, you're putting that mirror up to your own relationship with alcohol, you're using the Try Dry app, you're talking about it, you're sharing some new adult non-alcoholic beverages, maybe you're just drinking a little less, or maybe you're just saying, hey, I just want to drink on Fridays. Whatever it is, it's your dry January. It's nobody else's. And you don't have to say, oh, I messed up dry January on January 7th, so I shot the whole month. No, that's not the way it is. That's not the way life is. We're continuing to have to, adjust ourselves. For those of us who have had experiences with drinking, and it's, changed our brain and our function and our, experiences, and how, we are, have an addiction to it, that it, is sort of always there. We're much closer to it there if we keep it sort of just a drink here, drink there, moderating, as opposed to, removing that constant thinking of, oh, your set point for the day is, oh, I just can't wait till it's 5 o'clock, right? Or something like that. Or it's 5 o'clock somewhere. And then it goes on. That whole mentality just can get worse and worse. But that's what I mean by that notion of keeping alcohol in your life as opposed to not to. But we're not here to tell people to get rid of alcohol or reduce alcohol. It's just educating people, and to let you know that you'll probably live a much longer, happier life, and that the life that you do live will be much more well experienced and full of joy. And so we look forward to trying to help people along on that journey to understand that it is really important. Another thing that really concerns me is just how depression and suicide are linked with alcohol. And oftentimes when you hear about depression and we hear about suicide, how often in those media reports or something the next episode says, oh, alcohol causes 20, 30, 40, 50% of this, or the deaths by suicide that are used with guns. I mean, about half of those are alcohol somehow related.
Wow.
So, I mean that and the majority of deaths by guns are suicides. It's not homicide. So it's that what you talked about earlier, that the shame factor. We don't want to talk about, but I can tell you that the more of an impact we can make to try to reduce people's use of alcohol, not eliminate, but just get them to be more thoughtful about it, we're going to be able to reduce the amount of depression in our community. We're going to reduce the suicides. We're going to reduce the motor vehicle injuries, other injuries, and of course all of the partner violence, domestic violence, elder abuse, child abuse. I mean, it all is impacted a lot by alcohol, because it changes the way people think sometimes. Not everyone is a polite drunk, or tell some jokes and fall asleep. No, some people really, and you know this too, because you've been in these, they have a completely shifting of their personalities, and it's scary for people around them. It's scary for them, and then they don't remember because it
unlocks a different part per se.
And so we're all, as you say, we, not me, we've got to all try to take care of each other as much as we can, to doing what we're here doing, educating people. But starting off, that term designated driver, that was back in the 70s, right? 80s, early 80s, and there was a big uproar about telling people you shouldn't be drinking and driving. I mean, there
Right?
was pushback. Like, who are you to tell me not to
Yeah.
drink and drive?
I want my roadie.
I mean, oh boy,
Yeah.
so making progress is not easy. Yeah, I go back to the early 1970s where I lived in or near New York City, and Mayor Ed Koch was the mayor at the time. Do you know this was the time before there were poopy scooper laws? I mean, in the summertime in the early 70s, what they would do is the hot New York City, they would have the street sweepers go by and like smush the everything and then sprinkle water on, and then the whole day would be this steam of stuff that you didn't want. And then but the pushback for people saying no poopy scuba laws, I just don't want to do it. So when you look back at some of the public health changes we made, the advantages, there's always been resistance, there's always been pushback, but it needs to be done with as much education and love as we can, and trying to get people to move forward. And I think now we are at this new point with these technological advances in these adult non-alcoholic beverages. We're offering people choices. We're not just saying on or off. We're saying lean into this, try this, and hopefully that will help you get on that pathway to reduce and then maybe eventually eliminate.
Yeah. That's my plan, is my path of elimination, right? And I'm in a good place with that. You said something and I had it and then it went away. Let me go ahead and mark this so I can edit that out.
No. Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, we can go back to it.
I lost it. The Theraflu's got me. All right, so we will edit that out. This is at 54:36. One more question, and then I'm going to put you into the grill, and then we'll do the plugs and be all sorts of done.
Okay.
All right. All right, Michael. So being that nearly all societies have a tie into alcohol consumption, whether it's naturally occurring in fermentation or via distillation technology, and you mentioned technology a minute ago, and I do want to make sure that everyone out there understands that if you've had a non-alcoholic beverage, adult-oriented non-alcoholic beverage, and alcohol-adjacent product over the past 3 or 4 years, and you didn't like it, try it again. Technology is improving. Flavors are improving. The way that we layer flavors together like jigsaw puzzles on a chemical level is being recognized better. So if you have tried stuff in the past, just like anything else, like when you were trying to develop your palate to not reject bitter, go try these products again, right? Because most of us didn't like an IPA the first time we had it. We didn't like a Guinness the first time we had it. We had to develop that flavor. And I want you to keep an open mind. Go try more non-alcoholic products, whether that's our products at Liars or our friends like Athletic Beer or any of the great sparklings that are out there at this point. Or flat wines that are non-alcoholic wines that are out there at this point. But getting back to my question, because they don't call me rabbit for not getting into rabbit holes, whether it's naturally occurring ferments or the distillation products, with how the non-alc categories are in tandem with the younger generations that are happening now, how do you think we'll look back on our current consumption models versus the traditional consumption models now that science is actually studying the mass effects of alcoholic consumption? Because we've had these studies before, but they were funded, and then a little different when you get studies that are funded, right? So how do you think we're going to look back on current versus traditional?
Well, I'm excited to learn. I mean, I think there are a lot of surprises ahead still. I think what I'm seeing is that as there are these more non-alcoholic adult products that are innovative, sophisticated, fun, recreating that kind of ritual of a fun party time, where we're seeing more people step up to share their experiences as well. So I think, and talking about how they enjoy it and connecting with it. And I think we're getting to the place where there is soon to be more of an expectation that there will be an equal number of non-alcoholic products that just look and taste and feel just as good as the alcohol ones, and we will never assume that somebody drinks. And we still have a long way to go in certain industries. Of course, the entertainment industry, here we are in Music City, the food and beverage industry is one that really suffers a lot because a lot of the creative arts are filled with people that unfortunately are addicted to a lot of different substances, and alcohol usually underpins a lot of those. So if we can kind of help people move along to reduce and eliminate alcohol, it's going to make it easier for them to address any of the other addictions that they may have. And I think we're going to continue to be surprised and evolve. And we're going to get to a point where we'll look back and we can't even imagine of like where things were, even where we are now. To remember that, there was this one non-alcoholic beer called O'Doul's, and people would like make fun of you for thinking about it and thinking of it almost as a punishment for having it. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? As opposed to really enjoying the experience. Even 3 years ago when I served as the Nashville public health director, trying to, move us along, with COVID and the Titans, and saying, like I told you, the first thing that goes when you drink alcohol is your judgment. So you're more likely to take off your mask and all of these things. I was really trying to lean into having less alcohol in our community for a lot of different reasons. And sadly, the whole COVID epidemic was the reverse. I mean, we were allowing people to take stuff out to go, have alcohol delivered to your house. I even knew a lot of or a few businesses that knew that their staff were home, so as a gift to them they would send them wine and alcohol just to get through COVID. And so we really had sort of a spike up in people drinking, but we also had a spike up in people reflecting, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this?
People.
Yeah.
About a month and a half in, I was like, what am I doing right now? This is not a good idea.
Right. It's what am I doing? And then simultaneously, these technological advances, like new products, like, wow, let me try that. Because I do like that taste of the beer. I do like the sparkles of a Ground Prosecco. And wow, this is just so good, so satisfying. And I don't need that buzz anymore, or I don't need as much of it, or, I need better sleep. So I think
endorphins and sleep are my favorite things now.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, I told you that I was still in medical school in the late 80s, early 90s, when there was still smoking in the hospitals. And, we look back on that now, even in restaurants, like how could that have been? So I think we're going to have that epiphany moment in the next, 10 or 15 years. We're going to look back and say, how could it have been that we had bachelorette parties and we didn't have equal number of alcohol or non-alcohol, or respect people, or not sober shame that? How could we not have done that?
Yeah. Sober shame is such a dirty thing to do to people. I've even when I was drinking, and I'm talking like, even when I, the surfer kid that's traveling all the time and surfing and bartending, and even then I didn't like when people, like, if they don't want to drink, leave them alone. Like, get them something tasty, something that's not just a big thing of sugar and juice. Like, give them like a ginger beer with some bitters, or I don't know, something that's not just not thoughtful, right? Like soda water, bitter lime, that's delicious, but we can do better at this point.
Well, you're making me think too that people who don't drink, or people who are not drinking, even if they may drink but they're not drinking at the moment, they don't sober shame. It's the people who are drinking, that, like, they get into that mindset, like, I want you to get on my level.
Yeah.
And that is like bringing people down instead of celebrating. It's like, good for you not drinking. I maybe will just be done, or like I'll try some adult non-alcoholic beverage tonight instead. So we're making progress. So I really appreciate having this conversation with you now.
Well, thank you for being on. But you're not off the hook yet. You got to go through the grill. This is when we spatchcock and put you on the grill and give you a couple of really quick impromptu questions. You don't have to be crazy with the answers unless you want to be. It's all up to you. You've got endless funding. What non-alcoholic product are you going to bring to life?
From an existing product or like a brand new one? I wonder.
Whatever you want. You've got endless funding, and you're going to be able to bring something to life that changes how the world drinks, which is what our mission at Liars is.
Yeah. A Chianti.
Oh man, we're in the same vein. Yeah, yeah. I was like, I want a sparkling Lambrusco. Like I want that in a non-alc form, right? Man,
Yeah.
good answer. That's the best
Well,
one I've
I mean,
had
when you
yet.
get to know me, one of my favorite restaurants here is Il Forno. It's Neapolitan, authentic,
Yeah.
and so boy, that would be perfect there and everywhere. And so all right, I'm ready for the next one.
All right, the last one. And not that any of us are out at last call anymore. I can't even remember the last time I saw last call. And not because I was intoxicated, just because it's that long ago. It was probably pre-COVID at this point. What is your final song at last call? Like, you've got one song you can put on that jukebox to listen to before you walk home so you can get up and run your marathon the next morning after having however many non-alcoholic beverages you've chosen to have that night. What is your final song at last call?
Well, I always like to end the evening on a high note instead of like a low sleepy note. So you know that Chumbawamba song.
Yeah. I get knocked down.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Yeah.
You know, and to me that kind of just symbolizes not only what might happen if you drink too much, you get knocked down, you get up again, you try to move forward and not drink, but just life in general. I mean, what a great celebration to say, like, all of us in our life in one way or another, we're going to get knocked down, but we got to get up again. And so it's just a celebration of like, I don't give up. I'm going to keep going. So those of us that are struggling with alcohol, those of us who have family or friends or community, to know that it never ends. It continues. We're always going to get knocked down, but what's key is that we get up again and we just keep moving on. And so but I love it. I love that song. It gets me excited. So like when they turn on the lights and that they, kick us out, then, I can go home singing.
That's very cool. I like that. It's very, very fun. It's one of my favorite questions to ask people because it tells you a lot about the person that answers it.
Yeah.
This is your chance, your opportunity to mention anything that you want to about what you're working on. This is the plug segment. So anything that you're working on, speaking engagements, new projects, anything you want the public to be aware of, now is the time to let the listeners and the viewers know.
Well, thanks so much, Nick. And we're really excited at Mahari School of Global Health, Meharry Medical College, to be the home for Dry January USA. Nashville, Tennessee is Music City, and we have this special event which was occurring on Friday, January 5th. Mahari at the Bluebird Cafe. Now, the Bluebird Cafe is world renowned. It's a place where people come to share their songs, their stories, and hopes and dreams, and connect with people. It's a very intimate venue. At bluebirdcafe.com, you can learn all about it. It's a place where somebody named Garth Brooks was discovered and got his first contract. A young teenage girl named Taylor Swift was never heard of. She went there, song, and now we all know her. So this is it. So Meharry Medical College, our School of Global Health, is going to be there Friday, January 5th, with a wonderful artist, our ambassador for Dry January USA. His name is Gramps Morgan. He is the only reggae and country music artist. He lives in Nashville, Tennessee. He's got a beautiful repertoire. He actually is sober himself, and his whole style is to lift people up, connect with them. And he sings in one particular song, which is our actual official song for Dry January USA. And yes, there is an official song because we say it is the official song for Dry January USA. It's called Rumnesia. And as you know, when you drink, you get amnesia. But when you're Gramps and you go down to Jamaica with him, you get Rumnesia. But he doesn't drink. So it's sort of a tongue-in-cheek, really fun song that we think is going to connect with people. And we're looking forward to sharing more about this as well. We are going to be in Nashville, Tennessee at the Green Hills Mall on some weekend with Liars to be able to let more people know about that, have some tasting, let more people know about Mahari and the School of Global Health. And then finally on February 1st, we'll be celebrating the end of Dry January, but just letting people know Dry January USA is with you throughout the year. The app is with you throughout the year. And as some of my medical students say to me, Dr. Caldwell, I'm doing Dry January before my exam. So it's just becoming another way to say I'm cutting back on alcohol. I'm giving up on alcohol. And I just love it so much. So we'll be there and continue through the year and look forward to building partnerships with Liars and other friends. And I know that things are going to continue to get better, more fun. And I look forward to hearing from any of you. If you want to reach out to me, just go to MahariGlobal.org and you can find all that we're doing.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming on the show. You can find TaleFeather. Once again, my name is Nick Crutchfield. I'm the host here at TaleFeather. You can find TaleFeather anywhere that you get your podcasts, and you can actually watch us if you choose to on our YouTube channel. I've got a book coming up. One of my cousins is a world-renowned writer. He's helping me figure out the pattern to go into, and we are actually going to be doing this show, TaleFeather, on the first and third, and sometimes fifth Tuesday of every month. And the one that fills in between is called One Good Thing. So a week from now, if you're listening or watching, I will have listened to this show in its entirety, edited it, and then I will have done a diatribe, if you will, a soapbox, where I find something that Michael has said that has touched me deeply and expand on it. So this is called One Good Thing. It happens on the off weeks that TaleFeather is not on. All right. So with that, thank you, our songbirds, for tuning in with the flock and listening to what we have to share with you. That's a wrap. Put a feather in my hat from the nest. Nick Crutchfield, TaleFeather. See you on the flip.
The Liar's non-alcoholic pink spritz.
I taste the world through rose-colored glasses.
Delicious. Stay spirited. Make it a Liar's.